So this is an interesting topic a lot of you guys have asked me when I talk about the future of the MCU, so I really wanted to get some of my thoughts out there. And the big question a lot of you ask me is the MCU getting too big? And the reason I get asked this is when I talk about sequels to upcoming movies. Like, for example, when I talk about how Doctor Strange 2 is on the horizon, but it's probably going to be like 5 years after the original came out, that seems inconsistent to how Marvel Studios first started, where you would get a new movie in a series every 2.5 to 3 years. And we've seen this with a series like Thor, or Ant-Man going on to Ant-Man and the Wasp. And you look at some of the other ones, they're taking a lot longer to get the sequel out. And the obvious thing there is the fact that they're greenlighting and starting new franchises on the side while the other ones still exist. And of course, in Phase 3, we had a very interesting thing where they had to bookend the ones that started in Phase 1 and do some sequels and start new franchises. So when you start looking at the future of the MCU, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, all these franchises like Deadpool, they're coming in. And at some point, we're going to hit the point where some of these are potentially going to have to just sidestep. And you really have to think about this in a logical way. I mean, there's no way that they can continue to produce, let's say, more than 3 or 4 movies a year, because it's going to be under Marvel Studios. Now granted, Sony, yes, they produced a Spider-Man movie, and yes, that's going to keep happening, but Sony isn't a Disney studio. They're funding it. They're doing everything. Marvel is just helping them and doing the script. But when Fox is acquired by Disney, this is going to be a Disney product. So they're going to have to look at it and go, well, okay, what do we put out now? And realistically, when you're going to have a reboot of the Fantastic Four coming, and the X-Men, and probably a Wolverine standalone series because you know it can work, what do you think happens in the future? Do you go with a Doctor Strange 2 or a Doctor Strange 3 possibly, or an Ant-Man 3 or, Nova or something? Or are you going to go with something that's sure to print money, which is X-Men, which is going to be the reboot of Fantastic Four, which is going to be a Wolverine series? And we already know that the only reason Guardians of the Galaxy exists, and James Gunn and Kevin Feige made this very clear, it's because they didn't own the characters I just talked about. So the likelihood of them going forward with lesser franchises when they have these big hitters is very much out of the question. And I honestly do feel that the MCU is getting too big for their own good, because you're going to start getting into a very weird situation where they're stepping one on top of another. And we're already almost at that. We're looking at Marvel Studios. They're putting out 3, sometimes 4 movies a year, and it's going to come to that soon. And on top of that, if you're starting to get the Fox X-Men series in there, but they're owned by Disney, that's too much output to put out for one studio. So unless Fox and Disney agree that, yeah, the Fox studio can do their own thing, but it's still coming all out of the same pool of money when they're acquired, it's going to be rather interesting, and I think some will suffer, and some will suffer far more than others.